Wonder, curiosity, connection. Where will your adventures take you? I'm Dr. Diane, and thank you for joining me on today's episode of Adventures in Learning. So happy New Year and welcome to the Adventures in Learning podcast. Our very first guest of 2023 is Dr. Mary Payton. You are in for such a treat. We have a STEM educator, author, radio show host. She's got the All About STEM radio program, which I'm going to drop the information in the show notes for you. But I want you to meet this woman who is a hero to me. Dr. Mary, welcome to the show.
Hey, Dr. Diane, how are you doing? Long time no see, but you know I've been following what you do, so.
Well, and I follow your adventures too, so I thought this was a great way to start the new year by having you on the Adventures in Learning podcast.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
So for our listeners who don't know, can you start by just telling us about your adventures in learning? I know you have an incredible story of how you wound up becoming sort of a guru in all things STEM.
Well, growing up as a kid, I loved tinkering. Now, y'all got to understand, I'm a little bit older than a whole lot of people, but that doesn't mean I don't enjoy STEM or I, came up in a certain type of way. But I enjoyed tinkering back in the days when we had transistor radios. I would repair radios. I, worked on cars. And then when I was in high school and started taking my sciences, I fell in love with biology. And, that was my pathway. And so in college, my majors were kinesiology and biology, because my attitude was the more I knew about me, the more knowledgeable I'll be about, movement and exercise and all of that stuff. But I never, ever knew that would lead me into a life, almost a 30-year career, 29 years and several months, military career as a U.S. Army chemical officer, where I got to develop stuff in physics, nuclear physics, biophysics, and got to do an enormous amount of training and development and writing and just everything. So, but after retirement, my heart still loved training, still loved teaching. So I went back into the classroom as a science teacher. I taught biology, chemistry, and physics. And I think my family got sick of me talking about what I do and got me to writing children's books in STEM because of all my travels and all my adventures. And that's what I've done so far. And then they convinced me to do a radio show. So I started the All About STEM radio show and have been able to meet some of the most miraculous people all over the world in the STEM fields.
Excellent. And you've given me a couple of different pathways I want to go with you. So I'm going to stick to your adventures in learning for a moment, but remind me that I want to get back to both the books and the radio show in a minute.
Okay.
What were some of the biggest obstacles or challenges that you faced when you were serving in the military or serving as a teacher? What were some of the things coming up as a woman in STEM?
Being, well, let's start with the military. When people look at you, like I was a chemical officer, and I was told this when I started my officer basic course, well, minorities and women normally don't make it in this because of the math and science. And there were 5 of us, African Americans, and there were 4 of us that were women, African American, Hispanic, and white. All of us did exceptionally well. And for us, it was like, we had no clue what they were talking about. And that was one of the things that kind of hit me as odd. Why would you think that people couldn't do something? And we all have done well. We've all retired. And, it just hit us as odd. When I went back to Fort McClellan, where I did my training, I walked in and I told the director of training, I'm going to be your nuclear physics instructor. He immediately threw me out of his office. He goes, "No, you're not. Goodbye." I'm like, "Okay, keep thinking that." And when I graduated my officer basic course, he's like, "Mary, I need you to teach this subject because you can do this." And part of that was from the fact I did well in the course, but I was also an educator. And, I loved it. I got to do what I wanted to do. I got to teach people out of about ooh, 4,000 4,000 students of teaching. I only had one that failed. And
Wow.
he failed because I taught him how to fail. And he was having a wife. He had a wife that was having a very hard pregnancy. Um, his job was getting ready to phase out his position. And I'm like, you know what? The only way they're going to put you in another branch is if you not pass this particular subject. You have to test 3 times. You have to not pass the test 3 times, and they'll automatically put you in another branch. Otherwise, they'll just put you out of the service altogether. He did what I told him to do. I got him rebranched, and he was able to go home to his job and his wife because that was a nervous wreck because he was in the reserves. He wasn't active duty, and stuff like that can make you very, very nervous. So I
Absolutely.
said, but there have been some struggles with being the only female sitting at the table. After a while, people got to know me and got to figure, wait a minute, she has something to offer, as opposed to, oh, can you go get us coffee? No, I cannot go get your coffee. I do not even know how to make coffee.
Good for you. Well, and you were a pioneer in so many ways as an African American woman in the military, and sort of opening doors for other kids. Do you continue to do things to help open doors and encourage people to go into STEM careers now?
I do. A lot of people ask me, a lot of students that I've had ask me for references. I go out and I speak. But one of the biggest things that I have done in the past few years, I was down in Brownsville several years ago, and my friend had asked me. She goes, "I want you to come to my school and do STEM projects with my um, kindergartners." I'm like, great. And, I think the more and the younger you can expose children to STEM, the better off they are. It opens their minds to thinking. And so I went down and we had a whole afternoon, and I had the K4, the kindergartners and the first graders. And the teachers were like, "I've never seen kids so involved." And I'm looking like, "Y'all don't do science with your younger kids?" They said, "No, our principal thinks that it's not relevant." I saw the look on your
Oh,
face because I
yes.
know I know how you think about it. And so I went and I talked to the principal. He goes, "No, they're too young to think of anything or know anything about science. It's relatively irrelevant for them. They need to know their numbers and their ABCs." And I'm like, okay. And so that became a mission for me, a major mission. The past few years, I have worked with our local school here in Arlington and local daycare in Fort Worth, just doing STEM projects and STEM activities with kids ages 4 through 6, and parents and grandparents and the kids have just sucked into it and loved everything that they've learned.
Well, of course they have, because in that early childhood stage, they are natural scientists. They're
Yeah,
curious, they're asking why, they want to know. And one of the things I'm trying to do is to make sure that educators have the tools to be able to use science as
yeah,
the place to embed literacy. You can do your reading, your writing, all of that, the numbers. connected to science, to the things the kids are already interested in. And it's a great way to learn, and it's playful.
Yes.
I'd rather learn through play than any other way. And if you can catch them, as you said, at ages 3, 4, and 5, you're going to make a huge difference in terms of, I think, the pipeline of kids open to a STEM career down the road.
Yes. Yes. I think during that time, the most memorable thing that happened, I had a father who was a woodworker, and he would go out to trade shows selling birdhouses and things like that. So our last meeting at the school, we had like a little awards day. And I asked him, I said, well, what are you going to do with your son over the summer? He goes, we're building a roller coaster in the backyard.
Whoa.
I'm like, roller coaster you can ride on? He goes, yeah. He goes, it's something I've been wanting to do with my kids. And I decided I was going to go ahead on and do it this summer. I think I was more excited than the kid.
Me too.
So,
that's amazing. Did he go on to do it?
Yeah, he did it. And, it was really nice. It was really cute. The kids wrote on it and, he shared. So, yeah.
That's amazing. And I mean, there are so many then picture books you could connect to that, and like Marla Frazie's Roller Coaster, but then there are also books that have sort of the scientific stuff. There's How to Code a Roller Coaster. I mean, you could do so many fun things with that dad's one project.
Yes. Yes. And see, that's what people have to understand. Like when I would go into the classroom, I didn't just go in and do a little activity and then go home. Activities for me are set up to where they have to begin with a question. I don't care how old they are, there's a question. And then there is a writing component. It may be like when I do a rainbow lab, they have to write the words, write the colors of the rainbow, red, orange, and they have a little write sheet where they have to write that. And then, we do the rainbow, and then they have we have a project where they have to make a rainbow. Just everything has activities that go with that module, and the kids have just loved it.
That's wonderful. And I always add a picture book component as well, so that there's a read aloud that goes with it, especially with the younger ages. But I think that picture books work with older children as well. And they make great mentor texts, and more there are better books, I think, than even when you and I were coming up through the education. You've got more diverse art, you've got more diverse scientists represented, you've got more women in STEM represented. And so to be able to show them that you too can be part of this world, I think is huge.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. And even when I taught high school and college, it wasn't just the dry, read the book, answer the questions. There were always things that they had to do that were associated with what they were learning. It could be an activity, it could be an art project, it could be a presentation, because that was how I learned. But then you have to understand, I had to also implement technology into that. And that technology has made it a whole different ball game. And I love it.
So how are you including technology in the classes you're teaching these days?
Well, when there is you had to ask me, and her name has just escaped me. She was an MIT student, and she lives in France. One of the things that I did with my coding students was use her coding app, which is elementary, and they had to create like escape rooms or take one of the subjects from areas from a different subject that they were taking in school. It could be science, it could be history, it could be English, and they had to code a part of that activity, which was also something that they could turn into their teacher, and they had to make an animation from it.
Wow.
And I just love using that program.
That's really fun. As you were talking and you were talking about France, I don't know that it's the same woman, but there's a woman named Linda Lukens who has done the Ruby books about coding for early childhood. And she actually now lives in France too. She's from the Netherlands, but they're designed for sort of that simple introduction to coding for kids and includes activities that get them thinking about it before. So it's all pen and paper stuff before they get to the technology, is sort of a way to lay the groundwork. Hey, early childhood and elementary school educators. Are you looking for a keynote speaker or professional development workshop that will knock the socks off your teachers? Look no further. Check out the offerings at drdianeadventures.com. We offer half and full day professional development workshops that will help you learn how to build connections between multicultural picture books, authentic STEAM experiences, and your curriculum. You'll explore strategies to get your students fully engaged and wanting to learn more, and you'll walk away with a new perspective on multicultural picture books, as well as strategies and ideas guaranteed to awaken your sense of wonder and to help you immediately build science and STEAM connections in your early childhood, elementary, or library setting. Learn how to connect science and math to literacy, oral communication, gross motor skills, and dramatic and artistic play. Every activity and strategy can be completed using materials you already have in your classroom, school, or home education setting. Check out the offerings at drdianeadventures.com. So we talked a little bit about education and what drew you to STEM. I do want to know, tell me more about the books that you've written.
Well, I've got copies here. I have Taylor's STEM Adventures Hawaii. I'm going to hold that back. And Taylor's STEM Adventures Texas. These were my last two duty stations when I retired from the military. And the whole time I was in the military, I was always taking my family to different places. Military makes you move all the time. And every time we went somewhere, I took the family to see certain things. For example, in Hawaii, we went to Diamond Head, a dormant volcano. How were the Hawaiian islands made? Although we talk about the 7 primary islands, there are hundreds of islands in Hawaii, but we only talk about the ones that are inhabitable. And going to the islands, going to see Kilauea before it went dormant the first time was amazing. To sit there and watch the lava come down off of the mountain and look at the lava flow, and go up to the mountains, and there's actually snow on the mountains. A lot of people don't think it snows in Hawaii. It does. And this last time that I was there, I had to go from Hilo to Kona to pick up something at Walmart. Everybody loves Walmart. And I didn't realize that the higher elevation you go, the colder that it gets. And it was in January of 2020. I get to the top of the mountain and it is snowing. It is ice on the road.
Oh,
and
wow.
I'm like, oh my goodness. So I got over, and it was like you go through all of the seasons in one drive, and you turn around and do all of the seasons coming back.
That's incredible.
But the books relate to a military family going from one duty station to the other, because a lot of times military kids, you're somewhere for 2 years and all of a sudden you got to leave your friends again. Then you're somewhere for 2 years and all of a sudden you got to leave your friends again. I want them to look forward to the next place that they go. I don't have books about all 50 states, but if you're going from Texas to Georgia, what can you show your children in Georgia? If you're going from California to Kansas, what is on the road if you're driving that you can stop make decisions on things that you can see on the way. And that's going to keep them wanting to see things all of their life. My kids go out to different places. When I came back from working in South Korea, my son, I said, let's go to Big Bend National Park. I'm from Texas, never been to Big Bend. We went out there, we stayed there for 4 days. And let me tell you, that place is beautiful. Understanding how water cuts through rocks. Don't get me started.
There's so much beauty if we can take the time to stop and to see it.
Exactly.
And you don't even have to travel the world to find it. We were recently in Arizona, and, in my head, I think I had been thinking Arizona was what I knew from Phoenix and Tucson. And we
Yeah.
were up in the Flagstaff area and, places like Sunset Crater and Walnut Canyon and the Grand Canyon. And as you were just talking about Hawaii, it's the same thing. You can literally see all four seasons as you descend into the canyon and come up as you're changing elevations. And it's just phenomenal.
Yeah. And what I loved about being in Hawaii, especially this time, because I was on the Big Island,
Oh,
I got to just walk. Like on the weekends, I would find a trail and I would just walk. And, to see the cooled lava, to see the different vegetation, to see the different animals, because they don't have squirrels in Hawaii
right.
anywhere. They have mongoose. And, just to see the different birds. And then when you talk to people who were born and raised in Hawaii, they will tell you, well, this bird shows up at this season, or, this is where we go, and you can go and just see mountain goats everywhere. And it's just amazing what you learn from the locals.
And I like what you're saying about taking the time to walk as well, because I think that for me was something I learned during the pandemic, was slowing down and walking and really paying attention to the things around me. And I think as we're building in sort of this world of connections for kids, that may be something else we need to do.
Mm-hmm.
You have a friend.
My granddogs are here because my daughter came from St. Louis for the holidays, and she had
Oh,
to go
that's
and pick
awesome.
somebody up. So they're here with me today.
I understand. I have a dog hanging out behind me as well.
And your cat. I see the cat on the picture.
Yes. Yeah, he's decided to just hang out right now, but he's behaving, so I'll allow him to stay. So you were talking earlier about you're going to be rebooting the All About STEM radio show. Tell me about the original show, and then tell me about your plans for the new version.
Well, the original show I started because everybody was like, okay, you meet all of these people. For example, I'm on an airplane and I'm sitting next to an engineer from Texas Instrument, and we're just talking, chit-chatting. This when I was still in the military, my last few years. And he goes, I want you to come out and take a tour of the facility. Okay. Never thought this man was serious. I got a private tour of Texas Instrument.
That's cool.
And I was always meeting all of these cool people. And my family, and I'm always telling, my friends and family about them. They like, you need to interview these people, because the STEM community is the quietest community I've ever been associated with. We never talk about what we do. We just do it. We do it well. And so I started the show to, showcase the people that I met. And one of the first people that I interviewed was Wanda Gass with Design, Connect, Create. She worked for Texas Instrument. She developed the communications portion for satellites. She developed, she designed, and she was so funny. And when I did my research on her, I'm like, oh my God, nobody knows you did this. She goes, Mary, I'm not talking about that. I said, well, what do you want to talk about, Wanda? She wanted to talk about girls in physics because that's what her organization does. They work with young ladies who have an interest in physics, and they do that all over the state. They have groups here in the Metroplex, down in Houston, Austin, and I love it. This summer, I did get to teach a physics camp for her over in Fort Worth. But just to know people like that, um, you know, just there's so many people out there, but you don't know who they are, what they do. I mean, you have to look them up.
Absolutely. And then share their stories. I think we're stronger when we can amplify and connect and realize that people are doing some amazing things, and they don't toot their own horns about it, but they're
No.
fascinating and they're great stories to hear and to understand.
And I've talked to kids about their science project, all the way up to people who are TED Talk interviewers, to people all over the world, Vietnam, Korea, Tunisia, um, Canada, England, just everywhere. This community is so big
It
and
really
getting
is.
bigger.
Hey, early childhood and elementary school teachers and librarians. Are you looking for ways to spice up your curriculum, build connections with engaged STEAM learners, and introduce multicultural versions of fairy tales and folk literature? If so, head over to drdianeadventures.com and check out our on-demand virtual course. Beyond Ever After STEAM on-demand virtual course allows you to work at your own pace and learn how to build these STEM connections through multicultural fairy tales and folk literature. You'll receive professional development credits after you complete this high-energy 3-hour on-demand course produced with Steve Spangler, Inc. As a bonus, you're going to receive a PDF that's filled with curriculum connections and program ideas you can put to work immediately in your early childhood, elementary, or library setting. Discounts are available for group purchases, plus you get special pricing when you purchase it as part of a regular professional development workshop. So head on over to drdianeadventures.com and get started on your own Beyond Ever After experience. So what you talked about your first interview, what was your most surprising interview you've done, or most surprising thing you ever had come out of an interview?
You're not going to believe this. The most surprising interviews I've done have been with my children.
Really?
Yes. My younger son, we do an interview every year, and every year it comes up being different. One year he got so emotional, he started crying on camera, and I'm like, oh my God, what did I do? Did I break my kid? He he's a sound engineer. He started playing guitar when he was like 8. Um, and he's been in music. He's worked for National Geographic, other movies and television, and he just loves what he does. He owns his own production house called Payton Studios. But to hear his growth has just amazed me. And then my adopted daughter, she is a biochemist at WashU. And just to hear what they do and what they've done and to showcase them, I've just been just totally amazed. And, you know, her husband is an engineer. He's been on, and he works with people all over the world in structural engineering. And I'm like, oh my God, you know, just to hear what they did. And I'm saying this because I was interviewed by a young man not long ago, um, Roy Moyer, and he said that he did not know his father was in the military, like I had been in the military, and he was getting ready to interview his father because his father was a petroleum engineer. And growing up as a kid, all he thought about his father was, my dad's in the army. And he never knew what his father did. And he said they started talking one day. So people around you will totally surprise you. So,
Absolutely. And I know for me personally, I first became aware of you when you invited me to be on your show when I was working for the Children's Museum. And I've
yes,
followed you ever since because I love what you do. And you inspired me as I was thinking about how do I do this podcast to think about who do I want to talk to? What do I want to talk about? And one of the things I've always held on to is the idea that everybody has a story worth listening to.
yes,
And I love the idea of being able to build connections and think about, well, how do we see STEM or STEAM in everyday life? How do we connect it to your adventures and to your world? And how do we make it something that kids are interested in so that we're building for the future? But I owe that to you. So thank you.
And that was the premise of the show, was creating a connection, or connecting. That was my tag, connecting the STEM community. Because one of the things that I just hold in my heart so dearly, I interviewed this young man, Dr. Nehemiah Mabry, and I had interviewed several young engineers. They now do a STEM success uh, conference every year. It's an online conference. This was the first year they actually had people come in to Atlanta. And, I these were all people that were on my show at different times who have connected with each other, that they still come back to me and say, "Hey, how are you doing?" They still check on me from time to time. They wanted me to come to Atlanta for the conference last week, but I couldn't, because guess what? I had just came back from Thailand. Guess what I caught on the plane?
I'm sorry. Oh, no.
I'm better. I'm better. I'm much, much, much better. But if you had asked me a week and a half ago,
Understood
no.
completely. I
But
get that.
I, I,
So
I watched that group, and I just am amazed at the connections that they have made.
now you had taken a break with the radio show for a
Yeah.
while.
Mhm.
What prompted you to want to bring it back?
Uh, Everybody, y'all, I missed talking to people about their accomplishments. I miss uh, connecting people with other people. Uh, just when I would meet people and they said what they do, and I'm like, oh my God, people need to know about this. People need to know about you. And it was that hunger to tell people about other people, to give people those opportunities, and to open people's eyes to what they could possibly be. Who ever thought about, oh, I can be a true forensic scientist. Oh, I could be a uh, bio, mechanical engineer. Just those things. And there are new things popping up every every day that people need to know about, because we talk about, oh, I want my son or daughter in STEM. And I always ask, well, what do they like? What are they doing? Oh, they just like STEM. Do you know how many facets of STEM there are? Oh my God. Yeah, I have met some of the best food scientists in, ever in
Right.
America. And people like, food scientists, everything you taste has to be tested to see if it's going to taste good, or,
Absolutely. So
so
you're right. I mean, STEM is such a multifaceted thing. If people want to follow your show, where should they go?
I'll be starting back in February on Fishbowl Radio. So that would be fbrn.us. I'll be on Thursdays from 5 to 6 o'clock. But they can follow me on my YouTube channel, which is Dr. Mary Payton, or they could type in All About STEM Radio. And there they're going to find not only my radio stuff, but also some of my things that I did in the classroom with students, and some of my some of my adventures and trips going out. My new thing that I'm wanting to do before the year's end, we have a lot of art installations here in Texas. And there is one in Ingram, Texas, a Stonehenge art installation, and the heads from the Canary Islands.
Oh,
And so I want to
wow.
go out and see those. It's down by Fredericksburg, so I'm excited about that.
I love that. So you're able to follow your adventures and sort of maybe even learn some fun places to go and adventure yourself.
Oh yeah, oh
I
yeah.
love that. All right. So I have a question for you because I ask everybody this.
Okay.
I love to build picture book connections with STEM.
Yes.
Are there books that influenced you as a child or books that influence you now as an adult that you like to use when you're working with classes of students and teachers?
You're going to, please don't laugh because this sounds weird. As a child, there were no STEM picture books. My STEM picture books were um, car repair books. I think they were called the Crush or something like that. And I would take, work with my stepdad. I took health occupations and auto mechanics, auto body in high school. And I would love those manuals. When I went to college, my mom bought me the repair manual for my car. So
Wow.
if something happened to my car, but lately there are so many publications out there that talk about not only STEM, but they bring awareness to environmental change and things within our environment. There is a new book by her last name is Twining, and it's Why Cows Burp and Fart. And
Yes.
you know,
I've seen that one.
and I love her to death. But it talks about how uh, that deals with our ozone layer, our environment, and we don't think about those things. What would happen if we lost all of the butterflies in the world? So, it lets you know, don't use a lot of pesticides. We cannot lose our bees and butterflies
Right.
because that makes a big difference in our agriculture side of the house. So,
And it's all connected.
yes, yeah.
Absolutely. All right. So then a couple more quick questions for you.
Okay.
What currently brings you joy?
What brings me joy? Exploration brings me joy. And I don't mean like, um, you know, doing a lot of research or anything like that. As you know, I just came back from Thailand and I spent a week on Kamak, which is a little tiny island. So I did a lot of snorkeling, um, did a lot of diving, and I've never really researched under the water as much as I did while I was there. Or isolated islands where, you only have 10 people that live on the island and the deer will walk up to you to feed them. So being in that kind of ecosystem, that kind of environment. So what brings me joy is seeing new things. This year I've been to Costa Rica. I worked over there for a little while in Dominican Republic, and I just got back from Thailand. And I'm exploring more of Texas. But to actually see the things that you read about in books, to see, the uh, beautiful colored what do you call them? The cantu birds with the big beaks
Yeah.
uh, in Costa Rica, to see the spider monkeys, to have monkeys come and take your food in Thailand. It's just, you know, those are the things that bring me joy, is to actually see the world.
Absolutely. And as we look forward to the new year, what do you think are the biggest challenges and opportunities for STEM education?
Um, we're going through a major change right now. We're going through a educational change right now. So let me start there. how we're educating our kids is taking a big change because of what has happened in the past 3 years. A lot of our online platforms are having to really hone in on STEM. But we also have to take to consideration teaching our kids to problem solve, to do things hands on, to think about the world, or think about situations around them as a whole. For example, do you need a 3,000 square foot house? How can you live smaller? How can you work smarter? Do you want to change your footprint? Because if you look at the world right now, due to the situation, and I was in Hawaii when it happened, back being there, I rarely saw a monk seal. Now the monk seals have come back, which are seals that are primarily around the Hawaiian Islands. Sharks, although people don't like sharks, but they okay. You start seeing more different sharks around Oahu than before. The coral reef started clearing up. So how we teach our kids, to be better custodians of the planet, and then how we teach them to think forward. What are we going to need in the future? Because we have these smartphones. I mean, I don't know how old you are, but I remember the party line.
Oh, I do too.
Having a party line at my grandparents' house, having one phone that was tethered to the wall.
Mm-hmm.
To have a television, a computer, a telephone, a dial-up modem for your internet. Now everything is on one little thing that you hold in your hand. Calculators. You can talk to anybody in the world. Do WhatsApp or Kakao Talk or something like that.
Yeah.
So what is going to be next? What's going to be next? Elon Musk is doing space, going up in space. Who would have thought a independent person would be doing something like that?
Right.
So
it sounds like there are some opportunities as well as some challenges for us. And our job as STEM educators is to continue to open the doors and make those connections.
Yep. Open the doors and open the minds.
Absolutely. Well, Dr. Mary, it has been such a pleasure to have you on the Adventures in Learning podcast. Happy New Year, and I can't wait to have you back.
And I can't wait to have you on the All About STEM radio show, Dr. Diane, because you have got to come back because I need to know what you're doing now.
I would love to come back and talk about the ways I'm helping connect teachers and educators to STEM. That would be wonderful.
Okay, thank you so much.
You've been listening to the Adventures in Learning podcast with your host, Dr. Diane. If you like what you're hearing, please subscribe, download, and let us know what you think, and please tell a friend. If you want the full show notes and the pictures, please go to drdianeadventures.com. We look forward to you joining us on our next adventure.